The baseball card hobby changed forever in 1981 when both Fleer and Donruss began producing little swatches of cardboard with athletes on the front, finally putting a stop to Topps monopoly. So the 1980s Topps set is historic because it was the last issue of Topps' original monopoly. They're worth owning for that fact alone. But which 1980s Topps baseball cards are most valuable? That's what we're here to find out with the help of the PSA Sports Market Report Price Guide. What follows then is the list of the 10 most valuable 1980s Topps baseball cards in PSA 8 near mint condition, according to the SMR. Why PSA 8? It's a nice solid condition that's not impossible to come by and generally affordable, so it's a judgment call. Another judgment call comes in the case of ties. There are a bunch of $5 cards in this set. In those cases, the cards that make the cut here are the ones that I deem most historically significant or just the prettiest. Let's dig in. Rickey Henderson burst onto the scene with 34 stolen bases in just 89 games for the Oakland A's in 1979, and he never really stopped running. When he finally retired from Major League Baseball in 2003, after a quarter of a century in the game, Henderson had shattered the all-time record for steals, finishing with a mind-blowing 1,406. He also holds the mark for runs scored at 2,295 and slammed nearly 300 home runs among his more than 3,000 hits. Rickey redefined the leadoff role and was a first-ballot Hall of Famer and an all-time hot dog. No wonder his rookie card has led the way for the 1980 Topps set in terms of value for more than 30 years. SMR PSA 8 $50. By the time this card found its way into collectors' hands, Ryan was gearing up for his run with the Houston Astros thanks to a landmark contract. In case you forgot, Ryan signed a 4-year, $4.5 million deal with the Astros in November 1979, and the baseball world was aghast at the thought of the first $1 million-per-year player. A decade or so later, salaries had escalated considerably, and Ryan had turned into a bona fide legend as he headed across the Lone Star State to the Texas Rangers. That move, along with his 7 no-hitters, 300+ wins, and 5,000+ strikeouts, sent Ryan's cards into the stratosphere. His cardboard has resided near the top of the price list for just about every set he appears in for nearly 3 decades now, so it's not surprising that he checks in at $12 here. Okay, this is going to sound just a bit geeky, but can you guess which pitcher recorded the most wins above replacement, WAR, in the 1980s? Well, considering that you're in the Dave STIEB section of this post, you can bet your sweet bibby the answer is Dave STIEB. In fact, STIEB's 45.2 WAR in the 1980s is more than 10 points better than the second placer Bob Welch at 35.1. In case you're wondering, Hall of Famer Jack Morris comes in at 27.9. Yeah, STIEB doesn't get much love these days, but the fact remains that he was one of the best pitchers of this era, and collectors haven't forgotten him completely. He does have a $7 rookie card after all. Whether you think he got a raw deal or is just a mess of a person, not necessarily mutually exclusive viewpoints, there is no denying that Pete Rose lit up the baseball diamond like few others for the better part of 30 years. His pursuit of Ty Cobb's all-time hit record was the first big chase with national focus after baseball cards entered the boom era. By the time Rose passed the Georgia Peach on September 11, 1985, his cards were the hottest in the hobby, and they've stayed near the top of every set since. Through the good times and the bad, Rose cardboard remains Hall of Fame stuff, and PSA has his 1980 Topps issue at $6, good enough for 4th on this list. Jim Palmer must have been pretty hard to take if you were almost any other major league pitcher in the 1970s. It wasn't just that Palmer won 20 games 8 times in 9 seasons from 1970 through 1978, or that he won 3 Cy Young Awards and finished in the top 3 other times, or that he and his Baltimore Orioles were like always in or winning the World Series. No, on top of all that, Palmer had to look like a movie star and model underwear for gosh sakes. I think I'd have a problem with a guy like that, but maybe I'm just small. Anyway, Palmer continues his goodness well into retirement, checking in at $6 here. By 1980, GOSSAGE had already been one of the most dominant closers in the game for nearly a decade. His star only got brighter once he landed with the New York Yankees in 1978, and he steamrolled right through the 1980s and into the 1990s as a fearsome competitor and fan favorite. Still, one of the few relievers to make it to Cooperstown, GOSSAGE is a $5 card in this set. No wonder this gem sits pretty on our list of the most valuable 1980s Topps baseball cards. I mean, how often do you see two players reach 3,000 hit plateau in the same season? Hardly ever, right? Well, actually,
Hannes Wagner and Nap Lajoie did it in 1914. Tris Speaker and Eddie Collins did it in 1925. Hank Aaron and Willie Mays did it in 1970. Lou Brock and Carl Yastrzemski did it in 1979. Robin Yount and George Brett did it in 1992. Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs did it in 1999.
sorry, I had a frog in my throat. So it's not rare at all, as 12 of the 32 players to reach 3,000 hits had to share their milestone to some degree. But you don't usually see two guys on the same card, right? Right. So it's understandable why PSA has this Yaz and Brock combo at $5. The 1980s Top Set was absolutely loaded with great catcher cards, and most of them showed the tools of their ignorance to great effect. From stabbing a ball in the air with a catcher's mitt to gunning down a would-be base stealer or staring down an unseen umpire or willful pitcher, Topps caught it all in this set. But they went for a tremendous batting shot when it came time to showcase the greatest catcher who ever played the game. Any Johnny Bench card is worth owning, and this beauty checks in at $5 in SMR. Ozzie Smith owns the best rookie card of the 1979 Top Set and has for nearly 40 years now. So is it any shock that his second-year card makes it to our list as one of the most valuable from the 1980s Top Set? Like many others here, Ozzie is part of the $5 club. Willie Stargell was 103 years old, or something like that, when the We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates shocked the earth to win the 1979 World Series. Stargell's 1980 Topps card makes the list because 1. PSA has it as $5, and 2. We get to see Pops as he looked during his 1979 MVP season. It's a no-brainer, even if Willie doesn't seem all that thrilled by it. Like our video? Then like our video and subscribe to our channel, waxpackgods.com.